The text came through at 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Sarah was sitting in her car in the Target parking lot, holding a box of cupcakes her daughter Emma had picked out that morning. The ones with the little rainbow sprinkles Emma had been talking about for 2 weeks. She'd also grabbed plates, napkins, and that cheap plastic tablecloth that still made the backyard look decent enough. Everything for Emma's 9th birthday party, which was now exactly 48 hours away. The message was from her mother. "Hey, honey, I hate to do this, but things are really tight right now. I don't think I can make it up for Emma's party. I'm so sorry. Rain check. I promise I'll make it up to her. Right now." If you're watching this and you've ever been let down by the people who are supposed to show up for you, if you've ever been the one holding everything together while everyone else falls apart, hit that subscribe button, because this channel is built for people like you. Real stories, real pain, real consequences. Subscribe right now and don't miss a single video. Sarah read the text 3 times, then 4. She set the phone down on the passenger seat and stared at the cupcake box. The sprinkles seemed to catch the fading light in the weirdest way. She typed, "No problem, Mom. We'll do something another time. Emma will understand." She hit send before she could overthink it. That was the thing about Sarah. She was the kind of daughter who made it easy. She was the fixer, the understander, the one who'd been smoothing things over since she was 6 years old and her parents got divorced. Her brother had screamed at their dad. Sarah had just gotten real quiet and started being helpful. Now, at 34, that habit was so ingrained it was basically instinct. She sat in the Target parking lot for another 5 minutes anyway, just breathing. Then she drove home. Emma was already in her pajamas when Sarah walked through the door, parked on the kitchen stool with her homework spread out in front of her. She was 9 going on 25, all serious eyes and dark hair that never stayed in the ponytail Sarah put it in that morning. "Did Grandma text?" Emma asked, looking up. Sarah forced her face into neutral. "Yeah, she did. Is she coming?" There it was, the simple, hopeful question that kids asked before they learned how to protect themselves from disappointment. "She can't make it this time, babe. She's got some stuff going on. But she said she'll definitely see you soon." Emma nodded slowly, already doing the mental work of a kid who'd gotten used to changes in plans. Sarah watched her process it, watched the way her shoulders dropped just slightly, and felt that familiar knot in her chest. The one that had been there since Emma was born, actually. That simultaneous love and rage and exhaustion that came with being the one who had to hold everything together. "That's okay," Emma said quietly. "Can we still have the party with Dad?" "Of course we can. It's going to be awesome. Your friends are going to love it. And you'll be there?" Emma asked. Not like she was unsure, just like she needed the confirmation. Like she'd learned early on that plans shifted and people disappeared, and she wanted to hear it out loud. "I'm always going to be there," Sarah said, and meant it so hard it almost hurt. The thing people didn't understand about having a mother like Sarah's was that it wasn't always obvious. There wasn't always yelling or drama or clear-cut neglect. Her mother Carol wasn't a bad person. That was actually the problem. She was just scattered, always in crisis, always one step away from disaster because she made bad choices and then got surprised when bad choices had consequences. And Sarah had been cleaning up those messes since forever. There was the time Carol called at midnight because her car had broken down and she was stranded on the highway. Sarah drove 40 minutes to pick her up. Didn't ask about the car payment Carol was 3 months behind on. There was the time Carol got evicted and needed a place to stay for. Just a few weeks. Those few weeks turned into 5 months in Sarah's spare room while her mother figured things out. There was the constant stream of small asks. Could Sarah spot her $50? Could she watch her boyfriend's kids next Tuesday because Carol had called out of work? Could she help Carol fill out an application for a job she'd probably quit after 2 weeks anyway? And through it all, Sarah said yes. Not because she wanted to, but because her mom was her mom, and that's what you did. You helped. You showed up. You didn't make people feel worse about their lives than they already felt. Her therapist, who she saw exactly once a month because that's what she could afford, had called this enmeshment. Sarah had looked that word up and felt weirdly seen and weirdly angry about it. But Emma's birthday was different. Emma was the line. Or it was supposed to be. Sarah told herself it was fine. She'd gotten good at telling herself things were fine. Wednesday morning, she took the day off work. Well, she took a half day, which meant she'd make up the hours at night while Emma was asleep. She set up the backyard, strung up the cheap white lights she reused every year, set the folding table up against the fence, arranged the cupcakes on a big platter. She hung a banner that said, HPY 9THBRHDWME, in letters that weren't quite straight but were made with love, which was basically the same thing. Emma got home from school at 3 and started bouncing around the kitchen. Her dad, Sarah's ex-husband, Marcus, showed up right on time with his girlfriend, which was more than Sarah could usually say. By 4 o'clock, there were 8, 9-year-old girls in the backyard screaming about something that probably seemed critical at the time. Sarah stood at the sliding glass door with a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, watching Emma laugh with her friends, watching her forget for a moment that her grandmother wasn't coming, and felt that knot loosen just enough. Around 6, when most of the kids had been picked up, Sarah was in the kitchen putting containers of leftovers in the fridge when her phone buzzed. Another text from Carol. Hey, can I ask you something? Sarah knew better than to ask what. Carol always led with a question to soften you up before she asked for something. Sure. Sarah typed back. Is it too late to swing by and see Emma tomorrow? I got a little bit of money and I want to take her out somewhere. Just us two. I feel really bad about today. Sarah stood there in her kitchen, still wearing the HEPY crown Emma had put on her head at dinner, and felt something inside her shift. It was small, just barely noticeable, like tectonic plates moving underneath the ground. You can't see it, but the whole landscape is changing. She texted back. Actually, Emma's already got plans tomorrow, but maybe some other time. It wasn't true. Emma didn't have plans, but Sarah was tired and Carol had already taken enough. Carol didn't respond for 20 minutes. Then okay, well, let me know when she's free. Sarah set her phone down and didn't respond. She finished putting away the leftovers, took off the crown, and went to check on Emma, who was sprawled on the couch watching a movie in a sugar and happiness coma. She kissed the top of her daughter's head and made a promise to herself. Something's got to change. She didn't know what yet. She just knew that 9 years of being Emma's mother had taught her that you couldn't half-ass protection. You couldn't say you were going to stand up for your kid and then let the same people hurt them over and over again. The revenge part, if you could even call it that, didn't start with a plan. It started with a woman who'd finally, quietly had enough. The first time Carol called after the birthday party, Sarah almost answered out of pure reflex. It was Friday night, and she was folding laundry while Emma did homework at the kitchen table. The phone lit up at 8:34 p.m. Carol's face appeared on the screen. A photo from like 5 years ago when she dyed her hair blonde, and it actually looked decent. Sarah let it ring. She watched the phone buzz against the couch cushion and kept folding Emma's soccer jersey. After 4 rings, it went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, the phone buzzed with a text. Hey babe, call me when you get a chance. Nothing urgent. Sarah knew exactly what that meant. Nothing urgent to Carol meant something she wanted to talk about but couldn't be bothered to say in a voicemail. It was a bait. If Sarah called back, Carol would spend 20 minutes catching her up on drama, usually involving her boyfriend, or her job, or her finances, and then somewhere in there, she'd slip in and ask. It was so predictable it was almost clockwork. Sarah set the phone face down and finished the laundry. By Saturday morning, there were 3 more texts. One asking if Sarah was mad, one sharing a meme about mothers that was supposed to be funny but was really just sad. One saying Carol was coming by to see Emma and would bring lunch. Sarah texted back. Today's not great. We've got stuff going on. That was a lie. They didn't have anything going on. Emma had specifically asked if Grandma was coming, and Sarah had said she didn't know. But Sarah was testing something. She was testing what happened when she said no without explaining, without softening it, without making Carol feel better about being told no. Carol's response came 10 minutes later. "Ok, I get it. You're still mad about the party." And there it was. The guilt trip wrapped in fake understanding. The implication that Sarah was being unreasonable by having feelings about her mother missing her daughter's birthday. Sarah stared at that text for a long time. Then she put her phone in her pocket and didn't respond. This went on for 2 weeks. Carol called 3 times. Texted probably 20. She showed up at Sarah's work once, which was a new low, standing in the lobby with takeout containers from the Thai place Sarah liked, looking confused when Sarah came down and told her she needed to leave. "I just wanted to see you," Carol had said, and Sarah heard the hurt in her voice, but she also heard the manipulation. The way her mother had learned long ago that looking hurt made other people fix things. That seeming confused and bewildered got sympathy. "You could have called first," Sarah said. "I did call. You didn't answer?" "I know." Carol's face did this thing where it crumpled a little. Are we okay?" "I don't know yet," Sarah said, and walked back inside. She wasn't trying to be cruel. She was trying to be honest, which was maybe the cruelest thing she'd ever done to her mother. That night, Sarah sat on her bed after Emma was asleep and thought about a conversation she'd had with her therapist months ago. Dr. Reeves had asked her, "What do you think will happen if you stop taking care of your mother?" Sarah remembered saying something like, "I don't know." "She'll figure it out, I guess." And then Dr. Reeves had asked, "Do you actually believe that? Or do you think she'll struggle?" "She'll struggle," Sarah had admitted. "And that scares you." It wasn't a question. Now, sitting in the dark of her bedroom, Sarah thought about how she'd spent literally decades making sure her mother didn't struggle, how she'd organized her entire life around managing Carol's chaos, and it had never actually helped. Carol never changed. She just got better at feeling sorry for herself and better at making Sarah feel responsible for her happiness. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from her mom. "I love you. I'm sorry I've been a bad mother." She didn't respond to that either. The real test came on a Wednesday night in the 4th week. Sarah was in bed, already half asleep, when her phone started ringing. Not a call from Carol. A text first, "Emergency. Call me." Sarah's stomach dropped the way it always did. That word, emergency, had been conditioned into her nervous system. It meant she was needed. It meant something was wrong and she was the only one who could fix it. She called. "Oh my God, thank you for calling back," Carol said immediately. She was crying. Actually crying. "I'm at the ER. I fell and I think I broke my ankle." Sarah's entire body went cold. "What? Where's your boyfriend?" "He left. We got in a fight and he left. Sarah, I'm alone and I'm scared and I don't have anyone else to call." This was the moment. Sarah could feel it. This was the moment where the old Sarah would have jumped out of bed, gotten dressed, driven to the hospital, sat with her mother through the whole night, handled everything. This was the moment where she would have proven that she was good, that she was there, that she was the reliable one. Instead, she stayed in bed. She stayed quiet for a moment and then she said, "Mom, I'm sorry you're scared, but I'm asleep and Emma's asleep and I can't come right now." "Sarah, you need to call the hospital and ask if there's a social worker on staff. You can also ask about payment plans for the bill. You have insurance, right?" "I don't know. I think so. Check your phone. Look for an insurance card or the information they sent you. If you can't find it, call your job in the morning. Or you can call me tomorrow and I can help you figure it out. But tonight, you're going to have to manage without me." Carol was quiet. Sarah could hear her breathing, could practically hear her thinking, could feel her processing that the one person who always came when she called wasn't coming this time. "I can't believe you're doing this to me right now," Carol said finally. "I know," Sarah said, and she did. She knew exactly what this felt like to her mother. She knew it felt like abandonment. "I'll talk to you tomorrow." She hung up before Carol could say anything else. Then she turned her phone on silent and lay there in the dark, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. She waited for the guilt to hit. She waited for that familiar anxiety that came with not doing what her mother needed her to do. It took about 10 minutes. But then something else came instead, something that felt like space, like oxygen, like the beginning of something. Sarah cried a little, then fell asleep. Carol did figure it out. The hospital had a social worker. She called her insurance company the next day. Her boyfriend eventually came back. She texted Sarah twice about how disappointed she was, how she thought Sarah would be there for her no matter what, how this was not like her. Sarah read those texts and didn't respond. Not because she was angry anymore. but because responding, explaining, defending, that was the old pattern. That was her feeding the machine that had been eating her alive. Instead, she went to Emma's soccer game. She brought her lunch to work. She called her own therapist and scheduled an extra session. She started saying no to things she didn't want to do. She started asking for things she actually needed. 3 weeks later, Carol texted asking if they could talk. Sarah agreed to coffee, which was progress. Not full availability, not making Carol her priority, just coffee. They sat in a neutral place on a Saturday morning, and Carol looked tired in a way that suggested she'd actually had to handle some of her own life without Sarah. There were dark circles under her eyes. She kept stirring her coffee even though she'd already added everything to it. "I've been thinking about what you said," Carol started, "about how I need to figure things out." Sarah didn't say anything. She just waited. "I don't like it," Carol continued. "I don't like feeling like you're not there for me." "I know," Sarah said, "but I think I understand why you did it. Why you had to do it." Carol looked up at Sarah. "You have Emma. You need to be her mom, not my mom." It was the first thing Carol had said in probably years that didn't have a manipulation buried in it. It was just true and sad and overdue. Sarah reached across the table and squeezed her mother's hand. Not because the hurt was gone, not because everything was fixed, but because Carol was her mother, and sometimes love meant letting people feel the weight of their own choices. "I still love you," Sarah said. "I know," Carol replied. "But it's different now, isn't it?" "Yeah," Sarah said. "It is." And that was the revenge, really. Not something dramatic or satisfying in the moment, just the quiet power of a woman who finally understood that she couldn't fix everything, that she didn't have to carry everyone, that her child was worth protecting even if it meant breaking the only pattern she'd ever known. The reversal wasn't cruel. It was necessary. And that was the part that scared Carol more than anything else. Not that her daughter didn't love her, but that her daughter had learned to love herself first. 6 months later, Sarah sat in her car in the parking lot of Emma's middle school and didn't feel like she was going to throw up. That was new. She was waiting to pick Emma up from soccer practice, parked in the same spot she always sat, but today she wasn't checking her phone every 30 seconds. She wasn't calculating whether she had time to answer emails from work. She wasn't mentally preparing for the next crisis, the next emergency, the next moment her mother would need her to drop everything. She was just sitting, breathing, existing without an agenda. Emma came jogging out around 40:15, her hair a mess from the practice ponytail, her shin guards still strapped on because she always forgot to take them off. She threw her bag in the back seat and collapsed into the passenger seat like she was auditioning for a teen drama. "I'm starving," she announced. "We have dinner at home," Sarah said, pulling out of the lot. "Yeah, but now starving." Sarah smiled and took a left toward the 7-Eleven instead of the highway. This was the kind of small freedom she was still getting used to. The ability to say yes to things just because, without first running through a mental inventory of what still needed to be done, what obligations might conflict, whether she could afford it in time or money or emotional bandwidth. At the 7-Eleven, Emma got a Slurpee and some of those terrible hot Cheetos that Sarah had always said no to before. Now she just shrugged and let her kid enjoy things. They sat on the curb for 15 minutes, not talking about anything important, just existing together in that easy way that didn't require performance or management. "Is Grandma coming to my soccer game next Saturday?" Emma asked out of nowhere. Sarah didn't tense up the way she used to. "I don't know. Do you want her to?" Emma thought about it. She actually considered the question instead of just hoping. "I guess it would be cool. But it's okay if she can't." That sentence. It's okay if she can't. It was heartbreaking and also kind of the most beautiful thing Sarah had ever heard. Her daughter had learned to protect herself without becoming hard. She'd learned that love didn't mean showing up means everything was okay if you didn't. "I'll ask her," Sarah said. "But I'm definitely going to be there, I know," Emma said. Like it was obvious, because Sarah had made it obvious. She showed up. She was consistent. She was there. Sarah drove home that night with Emma singing off key to pop songs on the radio, and she thought about the woman she used to be, the one sitting in the Target parking lot reading a text about a missed birthday party. already preparing to be understanding and gracious and helpful. That woman had been kind, but she had also been slowly drowning. The thing about setting boundaries was that nobody told you how lonely it would get at first. Sarah's brother called about a week after the coffee with Carol and asked what the hell had happened because Mom was upset and saying Sarah had abandoned her. Sarah explained it calmly without defending herself, and he got defensive on Carol's behalf in that way brothers do when they want to protect the parent they didn't have to live with as a kid. "She's still our mom," he'd said. "Yeah," Sarah replied, "and I'm still taking care of her. I'm just not sacrificing myself to do it anymore." He didn't get it. He'd never had to get it. He lived in Denver. He saw their mother twice a year. Some of Sarah's friends also didn't understand. One of them actually said, "That seems kind of harsh. She's just struggling," which was, well, Sarah stopped returning that friend's texts pretty quickly. It turned out that a lot of people were comfortable with Sarah being a martyr. It made them feel better about their own choices, probably. But there were people who got it. A coworker named Janet pulled her aside about 3 months in and said, "Hey, I don't know what you did, but you seem lighter." Something shifted, and Sarah had explained briefly, and Janet had nodded like she understood the exact weight Sarah had been carrying. Dr. Reeves, her therapist, had actual tears in her eyes during one session when Sarah talked about saying no to her mother at the hospital. Not sad tears. The other kind. "Do you know what you did?" Dr. Reeves asked. "You broke a cycle. You changed the family story." Sarah hadn't thought about it that way, but she sat with that for the rest of the session and for the many sessions after. Carol, surprisingly, didn't fall apart. She struggled, sure. There was a month where she called asking for money and Sarah said no, and Carol got quiet in a way that made Sarah's chest hurt. But then Carol figured out a budgeting app. She started going to community college part-time. She didn't fix her life instantly. That wasn't how life worked. But she started actually trying in a way she maybe never had before, because she didn't have Sarah's safety net underneath her anymore. They talked on the phone every other Sunday now. Not the desperate emotional calls where Carol unloaded everything. Just regular check-ins. How was Emma? Did Sarah see that thing on Facebook? Cool, talk next week. It was boring sometimes. In a really good way. Carol asked if she could take Emma for a weekend in October, and Sarah said yes, and she wasn't afraid anymore. She didn't spend the weekend spiraling about what might go wrong. She trusted that if something went wrong, Emma could handle it. Emma was resilient. She was smart. She had a solid foundation because her mother had finally stopped cracking under pressure. The night Emma came back from that weekend, she climbed into bed with Sarah, which she still did sometimes, even though she was getting too old for it, and said, "Grandma and I made cookies. She let me use the good vanilla." "That was nice of her," Sarah said. She was different, like less sad, Emma observed. Sarah thought about that. She thought about how her mother had been carrying her own depression and anxiety and shame. And maybe some of that was genetic. Maybe some of that was circumstance. But all of it was easier to work with when you weren't also carrying your adult daughter's emotional responsibility on top of it. "Yeah," Sarah said. "I think she is." A year after Emma's missed birthday party, Sarah was having lunch with her mother at a restaurant midway between their houses. It was a scheduled thing, second Sunday of every month. Carol showed up on time. She asked about Emma and Sarah's job and actually listened to the answers instead of waiting to talk about her own problems. "I want to apologize again," Carol said, stirring her soup. "For everything. For the birthday party, obviously, but also just all of it. The way I relied on you. The way I made you feel like you had to take care of me." Sarah set down her fork. She'd had this conversation with her mother in 100 different ways over the past year, and each time she understood it a little differently. "I appreciate that," Sarah said. "And I think you've been working on it, and I can see that. But I also need you to know that I'm not waiting for you to be perfect. I'm not waiting for an apology that X is everything. I'm just moving forward. And you're invited to be part of that, but on different terms than before." Carol nodded. She looked sad, but it was a different kind of sad than before. It was the sad of someone accepting reality instead of running from it. "I'm going to therapy now," Carol said quietly. "Did I tell you that?" "You did not." "Yeah," I've been going for about 4 months. I think I'm figuring out where a lot of this comes from. The chaos, the dependency, all of it. Carol looked up at Sarah. I think I was doing to you what my mother did to me. And there it was, the family pattern that Sarah had broken by refusing to continue it. I think so. Sarah agreed gently. I don't want to do that anymore, Carol said. I know, Sarah replied. And I believe you. They ate in quiet for a while. The kind of quiet that used to feel unbearable to Sarah, like she needed to fill it with fixing something. But now just felt like two people eating soup together. The real revenge, Sarah understood by the end of that year, wasn't something you did to someone. It wasn't something flashy or satisfying in the moment. It was just the slow, quiet revolution of someone saying no and meaning it. It was staying in that discomfort long enough for the other person to actually have to grow. It was loving your mother while refusing to be destroyed by her. It was teaching your daughter what boundaries looked like by living them. Sarah didn't feel angry anymore. She felt clear. She felt like she'd woken up from a dream she'd been having her whole life. Emma made the middle school soccer team and scored a goal in the 3rd game. Sarah and Marcus were in the stands, cheering, and Carol was there too, sitting a few rows over because she and Sarah weren't at the stage of sitting together yet. But she was there. She'd made it. She showed up. After the game, Emma ran over to all of them separately, getting hugs and congratulations, and Sarah watched her daughter move between the adults in her life with an ease and confidence that hadn't been there before. Emma knew she could count on her mom. She knew her mom would be there, and somehow, knowing that her grandmother might not show up, might have her own struggles, didn't shake her foundation anymore, because the foundation was solid. That was the real victory. That was the thing you couldn't show in a movie or make dramatic in a story, but it was the thing that mattered. Sarah drove home that night with Emma singing off key to pop songs on the radio, and she thought about the woman she used to be, the one sitting in the Target parking lot reading a text about a missed birthday party, already preparing to be understanding and gracious and helpful. That woman had been kind, but she had also been slowly drowning. This new woman, the one driving home at dusk with her daughter's voice filling the car, she was kind too. But she was also swimming, and that, finally, was enough. If you made it to the end, if this story sat with you, if you felt something shift inside you, like maybe you've been the Sarah in your own life for way too long, then like this video. Subscribe to this channel. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Comment your story. Tell me about a time you had to break a cycle, set a boundary, choose yourself. Because we're all in this together, and sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is speak our truth.